dog is barking outside. All right, it is Tuesday night, 5:15. We're going to make an amazing meal. But first, a couple of things. So I was making cinnamon rolls, sourdough cinnamon rolls this morning for breakfast. And I got down to usually I cut them with a string in 1-inch thick sections. But I got down to that last 4 inches and I was like, you know what? There's going to be more than what's going to fit in my pan anyway. So what I did was I actually sliced them 1 inch thick instead of less than 1 inch. Pretty thin actually, probably 3/4 of an inch. And then I folded them and I put them in a muffin pan. Totally cute, right? They're like little knots almost. And then you just top them with your, that's what they look like inside. You just top them with your cream cheese frosting. So anyway, I have 4 left over instead of having everyone pig out and have super, super thick, which are good, cinnamon rolls. I have 4 muffins left over for tomorrow morning's breakfast, which is awesome. So here's a quick tip for you. Cut your cinnamon rolls a little bit thinner. And you can get some more for the next day. And it's less messy because it's not in a pan anymore. It's in those nice wrappers that just fall right on off. And then I have to rant. I'm going to try and keep myself as calm as possible. I'm having a situation with Excalibur. Yes, the dehydrators. I purchased one used and I knew that it could have some issues. And anyway, I needed some things replaced, including the thermostat. So I bought, you can only buy Excalibur parts from Excalibur. I'm going to get around to the point. What I want everyone to do is if you own an Excalibur dehydrator, if you are making yogurt in it, you may want to be alarmed. I went to go make yogurt in mine with my new thermostat. And luckily I went back to go check my yogurt. It was already too late. But it had heated to 111 degrees. And I only set it to 85 just as a warm-up thing. And so if you're actually setting it on the setting that Excalibur tells you, which is 115 degrees, you're going way over 135 degrees. Because what they're claiming is that a 20-degree difference from what you're setting on the dial to what the actual air temperature is inside the dehydrators is normal. So I'm very upset. I can't recommend Excalibur to anyone now. Their customer service stinks so bad. I've been emailing back and forth for over a week. But I just want you guys to be aware that if you're using your units to make yogurt, please set that gauge, that little dial, to whatever temperature you normally put it at. Then put a thermometer inside your unit and just double check your temperatures, because I completely destroyed the yogurt I was trying to make. Because I was making El Ruderai yogurt and it can't be heated over 100. So I thought if I set it at 85 that would be safe, but apparently it's not. So please, 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 if you have Excalibur, make sure you guys are monitoring the internal temperature of your units, because it's a lot higher than what the gauge actually says. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm still discussing it with them. Today we're going to be making one of our favorites. We're going to be making cornbread casserole. It is delicious. Yes, it looks just like the picture when it's done. It's beautiful. If you have a new cookbook, it's on page 43. And if you have the original, I haven't switched over to the new one. I need to. My old one is so beat up, you guys. It has food stuck to all of it. I just love it, though. I can't let go of it. So someone's going to have to take it. If you have one of the originals, which mine is an original, all falling apart, on page 110 is where you're going to find this recipe. So we're going to get to making this. I did already go ahead and soak, as the directions ask for, 1.5 cups of cornmeal, 1.5 cups of whole wheat flour with 2 cups of kefir, milk kefir, for 12 hours. So this is ready to go. So we're going to make the filling over here. So let's get started. I'm hoping Joey at Excalibur decides that he wants to do real customer service and makes it right, but I just don't think so. They keep referring me back and forth, so it could get real interesting. So what I have done here is this back pan has 1/4 cup of coconut oil that's been melted. Okay, so now the burner's off. It's just sitting waiting to be used. And then this large Dutch oven, which you don't have to use a Dutch oven. I just like to use one, is, how many tablespoons? Hang on. This is 3 tablespoons of butter that's been melted. So you could dress this up. You could chop up an onion and throw it in here. You could chop up some garlic and throw it in there. I'm just going to follow the recipe inside my cookbook, but you can feel free to do whatever you would like. And so the butter's already melted. So the next step is to add some flour. So I have some sprouted flour here. Bought it from Azure Standard. You can also make your own. I do have a video up on the channel on how to do that. It's just right now my life is nuts and I need to have an easy option. So we're going to go ahead and add around 2 tablespoons to this. We just want it to get thick, and as we add the broth, it's going to make a nice thick mixture. So let's see if I have a tablespoon inside my dishwasher before I opt to do a teaspoon. Seems like I'm always missing it when I want it. Nope, it's not in here. Okay, so we're going to use a teaspoon. There we go. We need 2 tablespoons. It's going to need 6 teaspoons of butter. This is over medium heat. If you can't have any sort of thickener, you could also thicken this product up, the final product, with some cream cheese. It's just as good. Okay, so the key to making a good thick sauce or even a gravy is to whisk this, and then we're going to let it cook for about a minute. And the reason why we're doing that is because if you don't cook it, your broth, or in this case, your nice gravy, is going to taste like raw flour. I don't know if you've ever licked raw flour, but it's not very pleasant. So we're just going to let this cook for just a minute here. In fact, I might add 1 more tablespoon. My recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of cassava or cornstarch, but I don't use those anymore, and so this is sprouted flour. So I'm going to try and do 1 more here. So I would do 3 tablespoons if you're using sprouted flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, or 2 tablespoons of cassava. There we go, that looks better. All right, so we're going to let it cook just for a second over here. And in the meantime, we're going to chop up a carrot using my handy dandy tool here. I love this thing. I've been using it so much. I just need to get a second one because it's always dirty. It is very, very cold here. We had a high of -4 degrees today, which is awesome. Supposed to get down to -30, 35 tonight, I just heard on the radio. So that's nice and warm. It's the way it gets here. I like it because that means the ground's nice and frozen. And we need that. It's part of the cycle. But it's very, very cold. We basically try to stay indoors and the kids kind of go nuts, which is unfortunate. But I keep just telling myself, about 60 days from now, we'll be outside more than what we can imagine right now. So just enjoy the indoor stuff for now. All right, so I'm going to add, the recipe calls for 2 pounds of frozen vegetables. So what I've been doing to stretch my frozen vegetables is instead of buying a mix, like a mixed vegetable, frozen mixed vegetable, I've been making my own and it's a lot cheaper. So I just took a carrot there. It's probably a cup of carrots. And I used my dicer, so they're all nicely diced and they're all the same size, which means they all get cooked at the same time, which is awesome. This is the name on the dicer. If you have Amazon, they sell it. Or you can get it on eBay from someone who has Amazon. Love that dicer. And so we're going to have that. And then we're also going to mix it with organic frozen green beans and organic frozen green peas to make a mix here. All right, this is ready for us over here. It's been cooking. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to slowly add about half of a quart, so about 2 cups of chicken broth. And then we're going to let it come back up to a simmer. There we go. And this is going to thicken up, but it's not going to be so thick that the vegetables can't cook in it. So we're going to let that go for a minute. And I'm also going to add seasonings into this that are not in my original recipe. My original recipe is really basic, we'll say. It tastes really great. But I'm going to go ahead and put some thyme in here because I know that's going to taste really good. Let's see, do I have any thyme down here? I might not have any thyme down here. Might have to go grab some. Yep, I'm gonna have to grab some. That's what I get for going off of the recipe. Hang on 1 second, I'm gonna grab it. Let's see. I have like 2 full totes of seasoning. All right, we're getting close now. There it is. I found it. Ta-da! We found the thyme. All right, so I'm going to put about 1/2 teaspoon in there. Just because I think it would taste yummy. It would add a little bit of flavor. There we go. And I'll leave that spice out so I can get my thing filled here. I'm also going to go ahead and do about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Just for flavor. And I'm currently out of onion powder or granules, so I'm just going to use the diced dried onion. Put about 1 teaspoon in there. And salt. Let's do 1 teaspoon of healthy salt. So we want colored salt, pink Himalayan salt, Celtic sea salt, something with color. And this is starting to thicken. When you're trying to thicken a broth to make a gravy, it thickens from the bottom, just in case you're new at this. And so you want to make sure you don't walk away for too long because it will burn down to the bottom. Okay, so that's thickening out nicely. I'm going to go ahead and add the other 2 cups of broth. So a total of 4 cups of broth. We're going to add a cup of carrots. And I'm going to do 2 cups of each of green beans and the frozen peas. And like I said, this is cheaper to do it this way than to buy the mixed vegetables from Azure Standard. I don't know about any other pricing. I know locally our frozen vegetables at the health food section are outrageous, which is why I buy them from Azure Standard. But this is just how I do it to save a little bit more money. I don't exactly remember how much it was, but it does take the price down enough for me to want to do it this way. So 2 cups of frozen peas, 2 cups of frozen green beans, and about 1 cup of carrots. Let's give it a stir. Let's see what we got. We're getting there. Okay, so this is going to come to a simmer. We need to dice up some chicken to go in there. Also, my chicken's already cooked as normal. It's how I store my chicken into the freezer, so it's a dump and go kind of deal. So we're going to get that diced on up here. And we'll get it added. So just in case you're new here, we grow a lot of our own chicken here on the farm. Actually, we grow all of our own chicken on the farm. And when I go to store it, that's like 100 and some odd chickens that need to go in a freezer. And I don't have enough space for all 100 and some odd chickens. And so what we end up doing is we take the whole carcasses and I make broth. And I do have a recent video out on how to do that. And you would just make the broth. And then this is the chicken that comes off the carcass. And you can actually save quite a bit of money doing it that way. I talk about that in that latest video on making your own chicken broth. I think it takes it down to like, I forget how much, 79 cents or something a quart for organic chicken broth. And you get chicken that's already cooked. So then what I do is I just weigh out the chicken with a kitchen scale in 1 pound increments. And then push them flat in the freezer bags and store them stacked right on top of each other inside your freezer. And that way you can store, 3 to 4 chickens worth of meat in the space of 1 chicken, which is great when you're short on freezer space. So I'm just going to chop this up because a lot of times I have the kids helping me and it's pretty big pieces of chicken. So we're going to add that on in. So this is roughly about 1 pound of chickens, around a little over 2 cups. So that's about how much you will need. You can obviously add more if you want. You could also add, and I would have had I thought of this, you could also add like little chunks of liver to the first product, chicken liver, to the first product, the broth, and the, man, I have just, woo, my brain is not making the loops tonight. The broth and the flour, you can add it at that stage because it adds a ton of flavor to your yummy gravy. And that's what people use on Thanksgiving is the giblets, which is liver and gizzard and all sorts of things. And so it does really add a great flavor. And if you can dice it really small, nobody will tell it's in there. It adds a great flavor to your gravy. Well worth it, but mine was frozen when I thought about it about 20 minutes ago. So that's not going to happen for tonight. I'm just going to finish doing this, and then we will preheat our oven. And we will start getting our 13x9 pan ready to go. So sometimes you guys will notice when I'm chopping chicken that there's skin in here. Yes, there is. I do keep the skin with my meat, and the reason why is because that contains vitamin A, which your body needs to utilize the protein that's in the meat you're eating. Also, because these birds were pastured, I know that it contains even higher amounts than the standard bird. So what I typically do is just try to dice this, or even with a pair of kitchen scissors, you could just take the scissors and you could just cut it into little tiny chunks that no one's going to see or bother, you know. If you cut it skinny enough, it looks like chicken itself and they'll eat it. But it's a good way to get extra nutrients into your